going to the ground.
Y'all do be careful. There's diesel response.
Yeah, it's wet. They do the light show in here still?
Yes, we do.
Hold your hand.
Y'all have a good day so far?
Oh yeah.
It's been really good.
Started off turkey hunting and then ended up here.
2 hours away.
It's crazy how we're underground here like this. Caverns and caves. What's the best seat in the house?
Whichever one you like. And whichever one doesn't have a slide might grab you.
Yeah.
Alright, you guys. So for the first part of our cave experience, or cave tour, we're going to be doing something that we like to call total darkness. Now what that is I'm going to be turning off any and all forms of artificial light that you may see as of right now. But before I do that, we do have just a couple rules. That is, please make sure that you remain seated the entire time the lights are off, just so that way nobody runs into any formations or falls and gets hurt or anything along those lines. And then the next one is please keep any and all forms of artificial light that you may have off, such as phones, flashlights, watches, anything along those lines. If you have any light up shoes on, please make sure that you keep your feet still. As for the phones, flashlights, and watches, y'all can turn those off for now. Once I turn the lights back on though, y'all are more than welcome to start taking pictures, videos, record, anything y'all would like, alright? You can experience this type of darkness. Those 3 places are deep in outer space, deep in the ocean, and in a cave like y'all are in right now, which is pretty cool. However, a not so cool fact about total darkness is that if you were to stay in it for 2 weeks straight, once you're exposed to light again, you would end up going blind for about 45 minutes.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. Thankfully, we won't be in here for 2 weeks straight. So, are y'all ready to experience total darkness? Awesome. I'm going to be turning the lights off in 3, 2, 1, and out. Alright, so we're going to play a little game while we're down here. Can you take your hand and wave it in front of your face for me? Do you see your hand?
Nope.
Already, yeah.
Well, there's a light on by the guy over there.
So I was gonna say it's a good thing that you can't see your hand, because if you could, then you might have superpowers and you may want to talk to your doctor about that. Next thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to take your pointer finger and place it over your nose. Have you found your nose yet?
Yup.
You did? I'm still looking for mine.
I feel it, I don't see it.
Alright, so the next thing I'm going to ask you to do, this one's a little bit more tricky than the first one. I'm going to ask you to take your finger and place it over your neighbor's nose without poking them in the eye. Now keep in mind, I said touch your neighbor's nose, not pick it. So if you find anything, you might want to put it back. Alright, have you found your neighbor's nose? Alright, you didn't poke your neighbor in the eye, did you? Yes. You did? Let's hope they can still see afterwards. You didn't pick your neighbor's nose, did you?
Oh.
I think I heard a yes. Did I hear a yes? Alright guys, are y'all ready to see our Majestic Caverns? Awesome. I'm going to be turning the lights on in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that's cool.
I'd say it's pretty cool down here. What do y'all think?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome. So I do have a question for y'all. Do any of you know what the root word of history is?
Past tense.
Story? Very good. So the root word of history is story. Now the reason I ask is because everyone has their own story, and at the moment ours are combining as we're in the cave talking about it. So I find that to be pretty cool. All right. So, like every good story, we're going to start this off with Once Upon a Time. So, once upon a time, the cave was a huge chunk of limestone until thousands and thousands of years ago, a flood came through and carved out all of that limestone until it was just a hole in the ground. And then, later on, cracks started to form in the roof of the cave, like what you'll see right up here. And then through those cracks would seep mineral water. Now, that mineral water would end up creating the formations that you'll see today. And a fun fact about these formations is that they grow at the rate of a mini marshmallow every 200 years. So I'm guessing it took quite a while for these formations to get to where they are now. Now, altogether, the formations that you'll see throughout our cave are called speleothems. We're going to talk a little bit about the different types of speleothems that you will see throughout our cave. But first, can you try and say speleothems?
Speleothems.
Awesome, y'all did a lot better than I did when I first tried to say that word, because clearly I can't speak very well. So we're going to talk a little bit about these speleothems hanging down from the ceiling. Now these are called stalactites. The way we remember that is that they hold tightly to the ceiling. At least we hope they do. Now we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about the formations growing out of the ground of the cave. These are called stalagmites. They just might reach the ceiling one day if they continue to grow. Me personally, I hope they do. I think that'd be really cool to see one day. Now, you're also going to see columns throughout our cave tour, which is where a stalactite and stalagmite meet somewhere in the middle. You will see draperies, as well as flowstones, maybe some cave coral, potentially some cave bacon if you look up. I just don't recommend trying to eat the cave bacon, because it's not going to taste very good. So we're going to talk a little bit about how big and how tall the cave is. So from right up here where we came in, all the way to that back wall right back there, that is roughly around 300 feet, or in other words, the size of a football field without the end zones. And I will say, seeing as this is Alabama, everything's got to be related to football in one way or another, just saying. And then from, what was that? I think I heard someone say roll tide. Roll tide. And then from right here at the base of the stage, all the way to the very top of that crack right up there in the roof of the cave, that is roughly around 120 to 125 feet, which is big enough to fit a 12-story building and still be able to give the walking portion of our tour no problem, which is still pretty cool. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit more about this room that we're in now, and then we're going to talk a little bit about a man by the name of Hernando de Soto, and then a man by the name of I.W. Wright, and then we're going to start the walking portion of our tour. So we like to call this our Healing All Cathedral, or as the natives would have called it, Kalmoga Cathedral, because the word Kalmoga translates to healing all. Now the reason behind this is because the natives believed that the cave had healing properties. They believed that the humid air was good for your lungs, and that the natural silence was good for your mental state. So you should leave here feeling a little bit more healthier. Now, have any of you heard of a man by the name of Hernando de Soto?
Yeah.
Awesome. So for those of you that have heard of him, what was he? Very good. So Hernando de Soto was a Spanish conquistador, or in other words, a Spanish explorer. He came down here in search of gold, but seeing as this is Alabama, he didn't find any. Instead, he only found pyrite, which is actually fool's gold, and he wasn't very happy about that. So after finding no gold in the cave, he exited and ended up running into the natives, who were the owners of the cave at the time. Now, he ended up ruining the relationship between the natives and the Europeans because he basically told them that their cave was worthless as it had no gold. Now, they weren't very happy about this, and once Hernando de Soto realized that they weren't happy with him about that, he ended up fleeing from where we are here in Childersburg, Alpine area, all the way to Florida. Now, at the time, Florida was still Spanish territory, which is why he fled there. Now, the natives ended up chasing him all the way to the Florida state line, but they decided to turn around and come back. Now, while Hernando was in Florida, he ended up catching what originally started off as nothing more than a common cold, but because his attitude was so bad, and he just overall was not a great guy, nobody really wanted to help him. And so because of this, what started off as a cold ended up getting progressively worse and worse and worse until eventually he ended up passing from what was nothing more than a common cold. But here at Majestic Caverns, we do like to believe that goodness prevails from every story. The good that comes out of this one was when he fled to Florida, he ended up leaving two of his friends behind by the names of Robles and Friata. Now, they later on founded Childersburg, which is a small town in this direction right over here. And as far as we know, it is the longest standing European settlement in the United States, which is also pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
All right, have any of you heard of a man by the name of I.W. Wright? No? Okay, cool. So I.W. Wright was just your average guy. He was a fur trader from Charleston, South Carolina. He came down here in search of better business because the business in South Carolina wasn't the greatest at the time, because some people had already bought some of his products or products similar to his, and so they didn't really want to buy the same thing a second time. So what he did is he would take the Chickasaw Trail, which actually leads to the Mississippi River. However, he didn't make it that far, because he ended up coming across the original entrance of the cave, which is actually just a few feet above where y'all entered, by feeling the warmth from inside of it, as it was a very harsh Alabama winter at the time. And so he decided that he was going to come down here and have a look. So that is exactly what he did. Now, he ended up coming down a 40-foot mudslide, which actually leads to the base of this rock right over here. Now, I'm not entirely sure why. However, he thought that it would be a great idea for him to carve his name and the year into the side of the rock that he landed by. So he carved I.W. Wright 1723 into the side of the rock. Now, little did he know he was basically carving his own tombstone. So after carving his name into the rock, he decided he was going to take a nap because the warmth of the cave was kind of lulling him off to sleep. So while he was taking his nap, the natives, who were the owners of the cave at the time, ended up seeing all of his stuff out at the entrance, and so they knew someone was down here. They decided they were going to come down here and see what was going on. Well, when they got down here, they saw a sleeping I.W. Wright. They couldn't really blame him much because it was really cold outside and it felt great down here. However, when they looked over and they saw that he had carved his name and the year into the side of the rock, that's when they started to get very upset, as they felt that he was trying to take ownership of the cave. And so they decided to lay him to rest eternally right where he slept. Now, they left his body there for several years as a warning sign to trespassers, up until a man by the name of George Stiggins, who was also part native, heard that he was still down here. So he came down, he talked with the natives a little bit, and he ended up convincing them to let him take I.W. Wright's body back to Charleston, South Carolina, where we believe he is still buried to this day. So I find that to be pretty cool, but also just a little bit weird. Now, the reason that the natives were so protective of the cave is because, along with them calling it Kalmoga, they also called it Nanehunga, which translates to fathers coming from the hills, as they believed that the cave was a sacred birthing place. They also used the cave as a sacred burial grounds, and they also believed that the further back in the cave you went, the more sacred the land was. So that explains it a little bit more, but still kind of weird. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start the walking portion of our tour. Y'all can follow me. We're going to walk right past the rock that I.W. Wright carved his name into. It'll be off to your right if any of you would like to take a picture. We're going to go talk a little bit about gunpowder.
That's where they killed him at. Right there. Called his name and they killed him.
So he was laying there?
Right here at our feet.
Probably on that, yeah, there's the
Yeah, that's where he was laying out
laying
outside
right
right
there.
there. Wow. Pretty cool story. I remember something like that story.
I think it's about falling. Wouldn't you have hated to be up under that one? Wouldn't you have hated to be up under that one?
Another question for y'all. Do any of you know what bat guano is?
Yep, that poop.
It is bat poop. Now I will say, I'm not entirely sure where the largest pile is. However, I did hear someone say that one really big pile was like right over here in this area. And then there was another even bigger pile right over here in this area as well. So that would be why I'm standing on blocks. But did y'all know that bat poop was actually used to help make up at least 75% of gunpowder around the time of 1864?
Wow.
I didn't know that.
It's pretty cool. So the way that they would do this is they would put a layer of paint in the bottom of this leaching vat that you'll see right over here. They would then scoop up some of that bat poop and cave soil mixture and pour it into the leaching vat. They would then get water from a well at the back of the cave. We'll talk about that one a little bit later on in our tour. But they would get water from the well, bring it all the way over here, pour it into this leaching vat, and the hay would act as a filter. It would filter out right over here and pour off into this ditch. Whatever impurities were there would fall to the bottom of it, and whatever was left on top, they would take a bucket like this one right over here to scrape up and pour into a pot like this one that you'll see right over here. They would then put a fire under it and let it boil for a couple of hours until on the outside of the rim would form niter crystals, which they would then scrape off, crush up, and use to make up at least 75% of gunpowder. Now, the names of the two men who thought that it would be a good idea to do this were Colin Carter and Joseph Bigby. Now, like I said, they thought it would be a good idea to make their gunpowder in the cave, so they also thought that it would probably be an even better idea for them to test out their gunpowder in the cave as well. So, if you look up, you can actually see where they tested out their gunpowder at. I will say it was not a smart idea, nor a safe one. Calls attention on the formations above you, we're going to talk a little bit about our flowstone. Now, some of us like to call it a frozen waterfall because that's a little bit of what it looks like, but if you look closely, you'll see pretty much all of the minerals in the cave in this one spot. So first, we're going to talk about this red spot right here in the middle. This is iron oxide. It's what gives Alabama and Georgia's dirt its red color. And then on the outside of that is limestone, what the cave was originally made out of. And then this white spot right over here that looks a little bit like Casper the Ghost, that is calcite. That's what gives marble its natural white color. And then on the outside of that, the black outer shell that you'll see here, that is a mix of manganese and magnesium. Manganese is a neurotoxin, magnesium is a natural laxative. So I don't recommend trying to lick any black rocks that you may see while we're down here, because that would be a very awkward run right back up the ramp. I also don't recommend trying to lick any rocks in general, but if you do decide to lick any, just don't lick the black ones. All right, so now we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about our drapery. Now we actually have the second largest drapery in the world, ours being 30 feet long. And although it may look very thick, it's actually not. It's actually pretty thin. It's about a sheet of paper thin to a stack of notebook paper thick. One way ours is cooler is we do get to walk under it, and then a fun fact about it is it looks a little bit like a jellyfish. Alright, so if any of you would like to walk under our drapery and kind of see how thin and how thick it can get, you are more than welcome to. While y'all are doing that, I'm going to meet you guys right over here by the staircase. We're going to talk a little bit about why it's there. Alright, you guys, can you all say hi to my friend Bob right over here? Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob. So Bob is actually one of my favorite coworkers here, simply because he doesn't say very much, so he stays out of trouble all the time, and two, he's a good listener. So that's a plus. Just don't tell my other coworkers I said that, because that will not be a fun conversation with them, especially the regional ones. Now, did y'all know that Bob actually had a job at McDonald's before he came to work here?
Oh, poor Bob.
Yep. They ended up working him so much that they worked him to the bone. So, you know, once he got here, we decided that he deserved a raise. Now, by a raise of hands, do any of you think Bob is real? Okay, I see a hand. Anybody else? No? Okay, so what I'm hearing is the rest of y'all either think he's fake or you're not entirely sure. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so fun fact is Bob is actually 100% real.
Wow.
Plastic. He originally moved here from Party City, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the burial style that Bob is giving us an example of. Now, we like to call this the Copina burial, and the way that this worked is after you pass, they would find somewhere sunny, so either out at the entrance of the cave or out in the field, just anywhere with a whole bunch of sun, and they would then place your body on a wooden structure like this one right here, They would then leave you there until you looked like Bob, and once you did, they would bring you back into the cave and place you in grass-woven baskets, like these that you'll see right over here. Now you can imagine that their baskets probably looked a lot nicer than ours, seeing as they were about to be placing their loved ones in them. Now they would place you in these baskets, put you in the ground, and then cover you up with the cave soil. Now a fun fact about this burial style is that you can actually bury multiple generations in one spot, which is pretty cool because you can't really do that with our burial style nowadays. And it also leads us to our next part in the cave tour. So back in 1965, we had an archaeologist by the name of Joseph Bentham come through to do a little bit of digging around on the cave, and he ended up doing some digging right up here, and ended up uncovering 5 bodies, 4 adults and 1 child.
Wow.
He measured one body to be about 7 feet long, which we believe was Chief Touch the Clouds, a well-respected chief back then. Now, their remains were on display from 1965 up until 1995, when the owner of the cave, Mr. Al Mathis, felt that it was a little disrespectful to have them on display. And so he had sent a handwritten apology letter to the natives and asked them if they'd like to come have a private reburial for them, to which they did. However, it was so private that not even Mr. Al Mathis knows where they were reburied, but we do think that it might have been somewhere right back up here, probably back wherever they were found. So, out of respect for them, we do not take tours up these stairs anymore. We also ask that you please walk with respect, as you never know when you're stepping on someone. Now, another little fun fact about this burial style is that the word copina comes from 2 different words. The first 3 letters come from the word copper, and then the last 3 come from the word galena, which is a mixture of bat poop, cave soil, and water. So I just figured I'd add that in. Now, we do have our camera back in the cave, finally, after it's been out for like maybe 3 weeks. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have y'all line up one family at a time along this rope. I'm going to take y'all's picture with our camera, and then y'all can walk over to our column room one at a time. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our column room and continue on with the tour.
Matthew did when we was in West Texas and got the cops called on us. Yep.
Did what?
Climbing all up and like stuff like that. I climbed rock climbing, coming up over the tops. Showing no deal.
You get the cops called on you. Mineral water.
I couldn't help it.
Had to.
Couldn't
I
help
see
it.
where your son gets it from now. Look, y'all doing it.
Here, you 3 stand on the...
Look at, you said your stomach was stopped constipated. Go over there and lick that.
No.
Come on now. You know that.
Yeah, it's just about to. Yeah.
Let's
That
go in
other
the
one
car.
over there, remember that she's talking about it.
Alright everybody, so we're about to talk about our column room. So first we are going to be starting off with our couples. So we'd like to talk a little bit about our boyfriend and our girlfriend. A lot of people ask how we know the difference. I say that's pretty easy because he's kind of hard-headed and she's just hanging in there. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our engaged couple, which are these 2 right over here. Now these 2 have about 2,000 years until they get married. Y'all are more than welcome to come to the wedding if y'all would like. I just might not be your tour guide at the time.
2,000.
Just saying. And now we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about our newlyweds. Now these 2 have about 2,000 years, or have been married for about 2,000 or 3,000 years. Now I heard that their wedding was pretty rocking. I heard that they had the Rolling Stones and all that there, and then they gave a pretty solid performance. I wish I could have went. That would have been really cool. Now we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about our married couple that has actually been together for so long that you can no longer tell where one started and the other ended.
Wow.
Because once 2 formations meet the way these 2 have, instead of growing away from each other, like some people think they would, they instead continue to grow towards each other, and in the process, they end up expanding. So one day, everything right back here that y'all just walked through will be all blocked off, and we'll no longer be allowed to let people go back there, which is kind of sad to think about. Now, we're also going to talk a little bit about our bachelors. Now, we like to call this one right over here Aiden. This one right up here is Blake, and this one right along here is my brother Dalton, because like all three of them, they will be single forever. I work with the other two. I'm not being mean to just anybody, I promise. But Aiden is here today, just don't tell him I said that. Alright, now we're also going to talk very briefly about the Mathis legacy, or the current owners of the cave. So back in 1910-1912, Ida Mathis, along with her husband, Mr. Alan Mathis, purchased the cave with like 11 other business partners with plans to mine the cave for onyx, because at the time, onyx was a very high-priced gemstone to have at that time. Now, they bought the cave, and just as they started mining the cave, which is these drill marks right over here, just as they started mining the cave for that onyx quality, the onyx market crashed and it lost its value. Wow. So the cave just kind of sat here for a little bit until Ida Mathis realized that she saw a deeper value in the cave than just monetary gain. So she decided to buy the cave from her other business partners and keep it in her family to pass it down generation through generation. So that's exactly what she did. Now the cave ended up being passed down, like I said, generation through generation, until it got to her great-grandson, Mr. Al Mathis, who is the current partial owner of the cave, along with his daughter and her husband, Joy and Jared Sorensen. Now, sorry y'all. Now when Mr. Al got the cave, he decided that he wanted to open it up as a tourist attraction. That way other people would be able to see the cave as well. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the cave has been open for people to come view since the 1960s-ish, somewhere in there. And then about 9 or so years ago, Mr. Al passed the cave down to his daughter, Joy, and she now owns the cave along with her husband, Jared, and it's pretty cool. Now, they do plan on hosting more events like Libertas, which is coming this summer in June, July, somewhere in there. We're still working out the dates on that. And then we also have our Christmas event at the end of the year, which is Adventist, so y'all should definitely come back and see us for those. That would be awesome. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start heading to the back part of the cave. We're going to go talk a little bit about the well that I mentioned earlier, and then we're going to head into our back rooms.
I'm not supposed to touch that. I'm gonna put some trout in here.
It's like it's clear, just clear, clear. I guess that's the reason why. What do you call it? Limestone.
Guys, so earlier at the leaching vat, I mentioned that they would get water from a well somewhere in the cave to help make their gunpowder. Now, this is the well that I mentioned earlier. However, instead of us using it to make gunpowder, since we have no need to make it down here anymore, we instead use it for charity. Any donations made go to hospitals, orphanages, places along those lines. So if y'all have any spare change on you and would like to make a donation, please feel free to, but of course you're not obligated to. Now, before we head into our back rooms, I am going to go ahead and tell y'all a little bit about what we have back there, simply because it does get very loud and it does get very hard for y'all to hear me. So once we get back there, you will see a red birdhouse that says see Talladega 12 miles. Now the reason behind that is because there is a 12-mile cave crawl that actually leads to the middle of Talladega National Forest. Wow. Now there have been a few men that were able to make that full 12 miles there. However, when one man tried to make the full 12 miles, once he got to the exit, he realized that it had collapsed, so much so to the point where he was only able to fit his head through. So that is exactly what he did. He poked his head out, took a look around, and when he realized where he was, he pulled his head back in, turned around, and made another full 12 miles all the way back, which is 24 miles in total. I don't know about some of y'all, but I definitely can't do that. That would take up way too much of my non-existent energy. Now, we're also going to talk a little bit about the thermometer that you'll see while we're back there. Now, once you get back there, you'll see that it says 60 degrees. The reason behind that is because our cave stays 60 degrees year-round, which means that it feels great down here all the time. In summer, it feels really good down here. In the winter, it feels even better. All right, now y'all will also see a waterfall, and there's quite a bit of history behind that waterfall as well. So back in 1796, George Washington sent a man by the name of Benjamin Hawkins, who was part native, to come down here and do a little bit of documenting on the cave. Now, like I said, he was part native, so he got to come further back into the cave than most people would at the time. Now, once he ended up seeing how beautiful the cave was and how beautiful the waterfall was, he ended up writing about it in his letter back to George Washington, And that later made us one of the first officially documented caves in the United States, which is pretty cool. Now, years ago, we did have a drought come through that ended up lasting quite a while, so it ended up drying out that waterfall. So while the holes and all that are still very natural, the only thing we do is pump the water. But when we get very heavy and very consistent rainfall, it does become a lot more natural. Sometimes so much so to the point where it does tend to flood back there, and we're not able to take anybody back there. So it just depends. But thankfully, we're able to take people back there today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have y'all come form a single file line right over here. I'm going to stand in front of y'all. Y'all are going to form a single file line and stick to the left side of the pathway. So please make sure that you watch ahead. I don't want anybody to have to deal with that. And then also, please make sure that you stick to the left side of the pathway at all times. Please make sure that you stay in your single file line. Other than that, when you follow me, we're going to head on back.
Year round.
Wow.
You could make it to Talladega National Forest if you were brave enough to make that trip underground. The Soto Cave. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Which native tribe was it? Chickasaw? Chickasaw?
I think it might have been Coosa
Coosa?
and
Oh, that's what the river. Yeah, the Coosa River.
maybe Cherokee, I think. Could be wrong, but I'll have to do my research. Again. So, have any of you heard of a man by the name of Pete Willie? No? Okay, cool. So, Pete Willie used to have the nickname of Old Popcorn. But what he would do is he would make moonshine back in the Prohibition era when the making and selling of alcohol was illegal because people were not using the proper tax. So what he would do is he would make his moonshine in the woods. However, because of the smoke coming from the moonshine, it would go above the trees and end up leading the police straight to him. So he ended up getting the nickname of Old Popcorn because he would pop in one place and pop out as soon as the police got there. Hence the name Old Popcorn. Now, he decided to start looking for a better place to make his moonshine, and he ended up coming across the original entrance of the cave that I mentioned earlier. Now, he decided he was going to come down here and have a look, so that's exactly what he did. He ended up coming down that 40-foot mudslide that we talked about earlier, and once he got far enough away from the entrance, he realized that if he made his moonshine in the cave, the smoke would not be as visible when it went out. So that is exactly what he started doing. He would make his moonshine down here. Now, he was the only person that knew about it, so he did have to test out his products himself, which was not a great idea, because he had to carry 2 heavy jugs, like this one right here. Feel free to try and pick it up if y'all would like.
There, 70 pounds.
Try it, Jacob.
Pretty sure it's about 50. Really? It feels light. That's it?
Probably fair, like,
That's heavier than 50. Really? A little bit.
like 54.
Pretty sure it's heavier than 50. Alright, so y'all felt how heavy that was, right? So Pete Willie had to carry 2 heavy jugs like that one right there, full of moonshine, back up a 40-foot mudslide while also being just a little bit tipsy. Because like I said, he had to test out all of his products himself to make sure it was right. Now, I will say that was not a good idea because in the process of him carrying 2 heavy jugs up a 40-foot mudslide, you can imagine he ended up wasting a lot more product than he sold. And he wasn't happy about that. So he decided that in order to stop wasting so much product, he was going to open up a bar down here. So that is exactly what he did. Now you can imagine that the bar was right along here where this rope is. There was a dance floor and live music right behind y'all where that dirt and mud is. There was also some gambling tables in here somewhere. Now the name of this bar was called the Cavern Tavern. Now it was open for about 3 or so weeks, going pretty good, I would say, up until fights and shootouts started to become a lot more frequent. Because at the time, drunks and gamblers didn't really get along well together. Now, with that being said, they ended up changing the name from the Cavern Tavern to the Bloody Bucket. Now, you can imagine that did end up catching the attention of the police. So they decided they were going to come down here and have a look. So they ended up coming down that 40-foot mudslide, and once they saw all of the illegal stuff that was happening, they shut it down real quick and arrested everybody, except for one person. Can you guess who it was?
Oh, Pete.
It was Old Popcorn, or Pete Willie. Now, the way he got away was he ended up hiding in a small hole similar to this one right back here for about 3 days. You can kind of imagine why he was out for so long because he did decide to get rid of his product himself, which was a horrible idea, might I add. Now, after those 3 days were up, he ended up waking up with so much energy that he decided he was going to walk 2 weeks straight to Birmingham, Alabama. So that's exactly what he did. He walked up that 40-foot mudslide, out the cave, and to Birmingham he went. Once he got there, he went straight to the police, ratted out all of his moonshiner buddies, and later on got himself a job as a revenuer. Which, I'm guessing his thought process was, if you can't beat him, join him. Because that's pretty much exactly what he did. Still, alcohol is not good for you. I don't recommend. All right? Now, would any of you like to see a laser light show? Yeah. Yes. Awesome. So y'all can have a seat on those benches right up there, and I'll get that started for you. Once everybody gets seated, we'll go over the wall.
Here comes the laser show. Okay. We set the wrong way.
Now, if y'all would like to leave a review, y'all are more than welcome to do so in the gift shop or on Google, whichever you prefer. If you leave a review in the gift shop, you can get a free sample of fudge.
What'd you say? We are now heading out of the cave. Heading out of the cave.
Transition back into
Go blind 45 minutes if you stay down here for 2 weeks with no light.
Hi, DeSoto Caves. This is mine and the old lady and Jacob's second time seeing it. And I think Natalie's first time.
Bye guys, y'all have a great day.
Thank you, you too. They gotta shut these doors to keep the bats out. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. What y'all think about it? I like it.
She got a cave crawl thing.
Hi.
Go do.
That was y'all's cave view.
The cave.
Alright, well that was the cave, so now we out. See what? Take off your shoes and empty your pockets. So this is where they gotta go into. They go in here. They will come out down here. All right, y'all go ahead. Whoa. Y'all got it. You got to get like a snake, man. You got to get limber and go off in
You
there.
must be over 42 inches and under 6'1".
I couldn't do it then. I couldn't do it. Don't get hung up, boy.
I'm sure he's gonna have to. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to breathe.
I couldn't do it. I'm too tall. You ought to try it with them.
No. Oh, it's cool in there.
Yeah, it's got to be cool.
This is the end of it, right?
Yeah, they got to go down in there and climb back up through. You see Jacob?
Yeah, I see his feet. She said, ah! Are you? He's probably right now thinking, I wish I hadn't ever got in here. Does he gotta go down
They got to
there?
keep going, yeah, all the way through.
Oh, wow. See her butt.
Yeah, I'm having to cut out of the video.
Right? She's trying. Are y'all changing your mind about being in there yet? We're out. No, you're not out. I don't see you.
Boom. You still got to come out down
You gotta
here.
come out way down
No,
here.
they got to keep going through and come out down through here.
Man, y'all got a long way to go. Yes, you do.
What? Y'all don't be making out in there.
Look, you hadn't even come all the way.
Over here.
Are you
Let me see
lost?
right there for a second. Let me get right there. Oh Lord. I don't know where they gonna be coming from. I honestly don't.
I don't even think they know.
Yeah, that thing right
He was
there.
at the end.
That thing right there goes up, straight up.
And they
from there.
haven't even come down through there yet.
Ah, shoot.
Are y'all at the end? No. Oh, I'd be What is she saying?
They said his feet stink.
This is the door.
Bro, he still got to come up, around. Oh Lord. Oh my God.
Look at
Bro, y'all got a long ways to go. I had to be going head first. You need to be going head first, Jacob.
Can you even? Look, she quit. She stopped. She's not even moving no more.
Feet of crawling?
Yep.
You have to do that?
Yep.
Look, she stopped.
There is one way out and one way in.
No, no,
Oh, yeah.
no, 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 no.
We'll be here all day. Probably will.
Really?
What are you talking about?
Listen.
Oh, they almost at the
I
end.
can't walk up knots. I can't walk up knots. Dad, you can't do it.
I know.
Do we have to do this?
Yes, you have to.
Take your shoes off. Take your shoes off.
All right, scouts, take your shoes, empty your pockets, take your hat, take your glasses.
Now, buddy, get
off.
head forward.
I bet you she's wishing she hadn't done that
Ain't
now.
no doubt.
It was nice knowing you.
Head forward, got to be the way to go.
There's 200 feet to go.
This looks
And it literally says one way out. You can't.
John, can you put the air conditioner all the way on? Put it all the way on.
At least it's air conditioned.
Oh, good. It says right next to this.
Bro, how is he gonna do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but stay in line
Wait,
Oh
is this
my
just
God,
what it's
look
gonna
right
feel like to be in
there.
the cave?
in the cave crawl.
The reason why they said not anybody. I wonder how tall is
So
he?
we have
He's
cave.
right at it.
Inside of the cave we have solid
Reason why it
jacket,
says not over
12
6'1".
cave crawl.
There's no way I would fit.
You
So
have
I
to
wouldn't
this is
either.
ex-
12
He's
miles.
this is
crawling.
example. This is example.
So we have to
Because
crawl.
listen, because you in the cave you cannot crawl on that thing. You can crawl over here. So this is example.
She's trying.
I see the next.
Oh, so this is the test. If you do actual
Yeah, there's
walking in the cave here.
It's 200 feet, so it goes under.
Wow.
Look.
Are they gonna get out?
I hope so.
How do you get out of here? Do you read the sign that says like this? Oh.
Your head goes
They
down
went the wrong.
first.
Did they go in the exit?
You
No,
guys
they
gotta
went in
wait.
right here. Went all the way through.
You guys are climbing. Do you have to?
Yes, you can allow it because all the overnights I done, they crawl in there and they get out and they get the kids say, can we do it again? Can we do it again, 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 again?
We have
They should be on the way out.
Yeah, that looks like a wasp
Yeah.
Oh man.
or a hornet.
Isn't that there?
That'll hurt. Yep.
No, that's not yours. Put that down.
I think he's calling
Are they stuck? I'm calling 911. Hey Ron, can you bring me a drill, please? There's this, not cicada, but bee in the cave crawl. Yeah. To unscrew a couple of screws and let it take.
Did you leave her?
He had to. I mean, he's got to. The first one's got to get out before the second one can get out.
There it is. It came out. Oh, there's the ambulance.
That's not it.
There's the man coming to rescue the bee.
She's free.
He's free. That's the boy. The girl's still in there.
Was it tough?
Yeah.
Do you think little
Well, you know it's for like 8-year-olds.
Did you read the sign?
I did not.
200 feet.
Come on,
I thought
girl.
you got stuck.
Wait, does it go underground?
No.
There you go. Hold on to the rope.
We've only been waiting.
There's a wall.
You want to go in? She said, no.
Your turn. All right, y'all made it out. Put it there. Jacob, I think this is the axe. This is the bow. Bullseye. Backwards is good.
What? Backwards? I didn't throw it backwards. You got it? That's not fair. You got to back up further than me. Your arms are longer than mine. Back up.
Whoo! That's the way you're supposed to make it here. What the world?
That one didn't have no weight to it. Now, where are you going with that one?
Boy! What's wrong with you?
Oh!
See, you wanted to hit right there. Oh, I hit it.
Knock them all down. Oh, I hit it.
Started video and just don't hit that one right there to stop it.
Why are you watching me? I throw about in the same spot. All bullseye?
No, you can shoot all that.
Oh. Go ahead, boy.
I tried to mess with him and tell him I was. I thought I was at first.
Look, y'all had that whole.
All right, let it rip, Jacob. We can go. Come on, let it rip. What the world? All right, come on. All righty, well, we right at an hour into this video, so we think we're gonna go through the maze. I'm not sure, but anyways, thank y'all. Peace. Capiche.
Oh, listen.